Hey, this is Cheese Factory, and this is a chess video of a game I recently played online, around 1300 rating. It's really interesting. It's a tactical game as opposed to a positional game, so it's pretty fun, and I thought I'd upload it. Starts with e4, c5, knight to f3, so we have Sicilian defense, knight to c6, c3, preparing d4. You can actually just play d4 right off and just have this variation, which is fine. It's pretty even. But I like this more because I like centralized pawn structure a lot. And he played queen c7, which is kind of weird. Maybe he's planning on like playing d6, moving his bishop, queenside castling or something, but either way, that's a weird move. So I just played d4, pawn takes, c takes, and now I have a really nice central board structure. So he's gonna try to get some defense. So e6, knight to c3, a6, preventing bishop to b5, semi-pinning the knight. Like if this pawn moves, the knight's pinned. So that would have been what I would have played, but instead I just played bishop c4. So I have more defense on d5 if he chooses to play d5. He played bishop b4, pinning the knight, bishop d2, unpinning, b5, attacking the bishop. I played bishop b3. I was considering bishop e7, but these pawns are definitely in the way. Like, I would play bishop e7 if there was any threat of this bishop coming here and this knight being pinned, but that wasn't going to happen, so didn't worry about it and just played bishop b3 to maintain this diagonal. Bishop to b7, so he can queenside castle now. His position is actually okay, so the queen move no longer looks as awful. Queen e2, preparing castles and also pressure here and here on e5 and b5. Knight to e7, so all his pieces are now developed. His board actually looks okay. d5, e takes d5, e takes d5, attacking the knight, knight to a5. And this position looks okay. White has an interesting edge in this pawn being so far forward and the threat of a fork here. But as there's two pieces defending it, it's not actually that scary right now. But there's another option for white, and that's knight takes pawn on b5, knight sacrifice. So the obvious answer is pawn takes knight, and if that happens, we have bishop takes bishop, threatening checkmate. This has to be dealt with, so we might have pawn advance, in which case white is now up a pawn, definitely up in positioning, and we could have castling, he could castle, and then rook to c1, queen's under attack, and the game isn't over, but this is a great position for white. White loves this, good development, pawn up, just really nice. So he didn't want that. So instead of capturing the knight, he captured the bishop for check, queen takes bishop, threat is now pawn to d6, forking knight and queen. So he played queen b6, pawn advance anyway, attacking the knight. He could take this knight right now, and that wouldn't go terribly for him. We could have queen takes knight, pawn takes knight, king takes pawn, and at this point material is even, but black king out in the open, can't castle. I'd be happy with this as white. So he decided not to do that either, and instead moved his knight to g6 to get away. Knight to f5 was probably better, because just more centralized, more effect on the board, and still attacking that pawn, but this is also fine. Except knight to c7 check, Pawn's protecting it, queen can't take, rook is forked. He could take with queen, in which case he would lose it, so forced move, king to d8. Bishop takes on f7. This is constricting where the king can move, rather than just taking right now. There's no hurry. You know, if the rook moves, it's not that scary. I mean, white still has a great position and is happily munching away on black's pawns. So he played bishop takes knight, which was not that good of a move because my knight wasn't really in the fight, and his bishop was, and anytime your king is under attack, you want to make sure you have more pieces defending than he does attacking, and he just used one of his defenders without killing my attacker. So I played queen to g5 check, forced move, rook to c1, and threat is, say he played a random move, then we would have knight to d5, rook checks the king, king has to move, then knight takes queen. So he doesn't want that. So he played bishop to c6 so that there's no surprise, but just took the rook now, which is fine, and now the bishop is pinned and can't take back. So he played queen to b7 attacking the knight, but that didn't really help because queen to a5 taking the knight. Now, if queen takes knight, we would have checkmate in 1, because the pawn protects. So he can't do that. So instead he played knight to f4. Threats are knight to d3 forking, knight to g2 check. So I didn't really want to be forked, so I played kingside castling. He took the pawn, bishop protects, king can't take. So I played bishop d5, which is quite scary for him because this bishop is pinned and all 4 of these pieces are glaring at the king. He only really has 2 defenders. Very scary for him. So he played knight to f4 attacking the bishop, knight to b6 check, and from here black lost the game. There was maybe chance for defending until now, but knight to b6 seals it, because forced move, bishop takes, pawn must take. I mean, queen could take, but rook would take back, so not that good of an idea. So pawn must take, and then knight to d7 check, queen must take, queen to b6 check, forced. If king to king to c8, then we would have rook to c6 check, forced move, queen takes queen, and this is just the end of the game. So that's why he did not move to c8, he moved to a8, but queen takes a6 check, king to b8, queen to b6 check, king back to a8, queen to c6, taking the pawn check, queen must take, rook takes, and now he resigned because white is up 3 full pawns and a bishop to knight. There's no compensation. The game is just completely over. The board is so simplified that there's no tactical chances anymore. It's just material advantage. So that was a very cool game. It was all tactical from like all the way back here, even. In a somewhat quiet position where white could have just played kingside castle, queenside castle. Instead, knight takes b5, checking the queen, even. He responded with check, and from here, a very interesting game. I like this one a lot. It was more of a Tal game than a Kasparov game, so it was very fun. And I hope you all enjoyed it. This was Cheese Factory, and that's it.